Good evening, all. Good evening, Himani ma'am.
Good evening, sir.
Swarup sir, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, Swarup sir. Good evening, Biju
Good
sir.
evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening. Good evening, all.
Yeah. I think Biju sir is preparing to invite Himani ma'am. Right, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
It is my privilege to introduce today's moderator, Ms. Himani Bakshi. Ms. Himani Bakshi, an educator holding a master's degree in English from Lady Shri Ram College, Delhi University. She has been in the field of education for a decade. Currently, she shapes the minds of senior secondary students at Modern School Barakamba Road. Ms. Himani served as an observer in the 2021 National Achievement Survey. In addition to her teaching role, Ms. Himani takes on the responsibilities of the English Department Coordinator for classes 6 to 10. She actively promotes holistic learning and is deeply involved in co-curricular activities within the school. Hearty welcome to you, Ms. Himani. Please proceed.
Thank you so much, sir. Very heartening. Thank you so much. Salam, sir. Should I proceed?
Yes, please proceed. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. Greetings from Extra Mile. Extra Mile is an exclusive platform created by the founder of BTAG, Dr. Abdul Salam, for providing online and offline training. Having a pool of resource persons, Extra Mile is resourceful to provide on-site training on demand across India. Before we begin, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to Dr. Abdul Salam and Extra Mile Education and Training for giving me this opportunity. I also extend a very warm welcome to all our dear participants. It is indeed a pleasure to have each one of you as an important part of this webinar. Continuing with this plethora of endeavors, the Extra Mile community, along with today's remarkably talented and well-known resource person, Dr. Swarup Datta, will seek to provide valuable inputs in this session. Decoding the CBSE secondary and senior secondary curriculum for the academic year 24-25 is crucial for educators, students, and parents alike. As the Central Board of Secondary Education continues to evolve its curriculum to align with contemporary educational needs and global standards, understanding the intricacies of the updated curriculum is essential for effective teaching, learning, and academic success. Today's webinar aims to provide insight into the key components, changes, and objectives of the CBSE curriculum for secondary and senior secondary levels, empowering stakeholders to navigate and leverage the educational landscape effectively. So before we begin with today's session, there are a few things I'd like to quickly brief you about. Any query during the session can be conveyed through the meeting chat box. To have an interactive experience, you may clear your doubts by asking questions. Kindly use the virtual hand raise button and wait for your name to be called out for asking your query. The participants will also have the opportunity to receive certificate, but only after filling up the certificate and feedback form, the link for which will be shared at the end of the session. Please stay connected till the end of the session. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Dr. Abdul Salam. He is presently working as the assessor of National Accreditation Board for Education and Training, Government of India. Dr. Salam is the principal of prestigious Vibgyor High, Bangalore. He is the CBSE resource person and master trainer. Dr. Salam is the founder and CEO of BTAG. Sir, it is indeed a pleasure to have your gracious presence, and I would request you to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you, Ms. Himani. Good evening, everyone. Respected resource person of today, Dr. Swarup Datta, Mr. BGS Pillai, and all the dignitaries, all educators who have joined very eagerly to listen to Dr. Swarup Datta. There is not much introduction required. Himani has given an ample introduction. Everything what matters is what Swarup Datta sir is going to, tell us how the curriculum is expecting from the educators, what are the expectations, and how it is designed, how effectively we can transact. I can understand there are many queries because policies keep changing. Finally, we have the curriculum in front of us. Definitely, this session will clear all your queries. Make it as interactive as possible by shooting your doubts. Wish you all the very best. Hearty welcome once again, all educators on board. Thank you so much. Over to Himani.
Thank you, Salam sir, for your motivating words. Ladies and gentlemen, amidst us, we also have Mr. Biju S. Pillai. Mr. Pillai is the principal of Sri Gokulam Public School, Trivandrum. He is the co-founder of BTAG and has a vast experience in the field of education in many capacities, including being the principal of many reputed CBSE schools. Sir, we are honored to have your gracious presence amidst us. I request Mr. Biju S. Pillai to felicitate the gathering with his kind words.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening to all. Respected Swarup Datta sir, our director, Dr. Abdul Salam, and all other dignitaries. Every evening has its own importance. So today's webinar has also got very important topic. So every day the CBSE curriculum is getting advanced and new changes are coming. So on looking into the holistic approach, flexibility and dynamic, how we can focus on the skill development and well-structured syllabus, continuous and comprehensive evaluations, how it can be done. So related to all these different topics, we the educators will be having n number of doubts where it can be cleared by our expert faculty, Swarup Datta. So I welcome Dr. Swarup Datta to have a wonderful session and hope that all the educators will get complete advantage out of it. Let me conclude. Wishing all a very good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words. Ladies and gentlemen, now we shall proceed to the highlight of today's webinar. Today, amidst us, we have very talented Dr. Swarup Datta. Dr. Swarup Datta, MSc, B.Ed, BHMS, is the principal of MSM English School and Junior College in Malkapur, Maharashtra. He holds the prestigious role of Zonal Training and Coordinator and Master Trainer for CBSE, covering Pune and Thiruvananthapuram. As the CBSE City Coordinator for Buldhana District, he is the founder president of Buldhana Sahodaya School Complex and a member of the CBSE Affiliation Review Committee. Dr. Datta also serves as an advisor for Zoom Class Technologies and is a mentor for Vikram Sarabhai Science Foundation and CEIR Global. With over 2 decades of experience as a corporate trainer and inspirational speaker, Dr. Datta's career is highlighted by becoming India's first school principal to attain the status of a Master Black Belt in Lean Six Sigma Quality Management. He is a certified Green Belt, Global Career Counselor, and Law of Attraction Master Practitioner. His diverse expertise includes being a professional English trainer, authoring a grammar book series called Syntax, and overseeing organizational transformations in various fields. Dr. Datta has trained thousands of corporate employees and teachers, championing a shift from the pharmaceutical industry to the educational sector. He has received notable awards, including the Young Scientist Award in Homeopathic Science and the Singhania Education Excellence Award. As a life and consciousness coach, Dr. Datta provides high-quality education to rural schools in India, having prepared training modules and worked with prestigious institutions both within and outside India. He recently launched Best Careers book a company focused on career counseling, consultancy, and training services. Dr. Swarup Datta's notable accomplishments have been celebrated on numerous prestigious platforms. Sir, on behalf of everyone present, I welcome you and request you to kindly take over the proceedings for the evening.
Thank you so much, ma'am. A very good evening to all the participants. Good evening, Salam sir, Biju sir. Today's webinar is about a very interesting topic, that is the CBSE curriculum in crossing the secondary as well as the senior secondary level. So let me just share my screen with you before I start.
So the screen is visible. Now it is
It's
visible.
visible, right?
Yes.
All right, great. So the topic for the day is decoding the CBSE secondary and senior secondary curriculum. So before I move ahead, we need to understand what is a curriculum and how the word has come. The word has been derived from a Latin word called curere, which means the race course, where horses run. So it's a course, is basically the meaning of the word curriculum. So it's actually a sum total of a planned set of educational experiences provided to a learner by a school to attain stipulated competencies using specified content. So that is what syllabus is. Many people confuse between these two words. What is a curriculum and what is a syllabus? So when we are referring to a curriculum, it's the entire experience that we provide to a learner, and the content in particular is called the syllabus. And the pedagogy practices and assessment guidelines are also included in the curriculum. So this curriculum that we are about to speak about reflects nation's shared vision on education encompassing local, national, and global needs and expectations. So in the lines of NEP, this curriculum talks about local, national, as well as the global needs, and is expected to meet these needs. So what are the salient features of this particular curriculum? The first thing is it talks about holistic development of the child. It talks about hands-on experience, not rote learning. Third, it wants to make learning competency-based, mastery over laid-down competencies. So it talks about certain competencies that the child is expected to reach or achieve in the particular grade. Number 4, application of knowledge and skills in real life. Number 5, value-based learning activities that uphold constitutional values in particular. Number 6, it promotes 21st century skills, life skills, financial literacy, digital literacy, health and wellness, road safety, citizenship education, disaster management, and multilingualism. It also talks about how to integrate innovation in pedagogy. We are talking about innovative teaching methodologies. It talks about promoting inclusive practices, enhancing and supporting learning by different types of assessments, strengthening knowledge and attitude related to livelihood skills. So, this curriculum talks about livelihood skills, that we need to train the children and, increase their knowledge or strengthen their knowledge in terms of how to earn a livelihood. The point number 11 is it fosters multilingual and multicultural learning and national understanding in an interdependent society. So we're talking about multicultural, learning, multilingualism. And of course, the number 12 is integrate environmental education in various disciplines. So these are the salient features of this particular curriculum. It also talks about we need to understand that this curriculum has to also be correlated with something that is published recently, that is the NCRF guidelines. And when we talk about NCRF guidelines, this curriculum should also keep in mind the number of hours or the number of credits that are to be earned at each level. We have already conducted a webinar on national credit framework earlier. And you can see over here, it starts with the 5 years of foundational level, 3 years of preparatory, 3 years of middle, and 4 years of secondary level. So senior secondary and secondary is merged together in the NAP as a secondary level, though we demarcated between 9th and 10th, which is called secondary, and the 11th and 12th, which is called the senior secondary. So you can see very well that in the senior secondary and the secondary level, the number of credits that to be earned are 40 credits. So these are 40 credits means 30 hours is 1 credit, so 1200 hours per year. So in a circular published recently on National Credit Framework, the subjects have been assigned with certain credits and credit points. So this is a brief overview of the same, where language 1 and 2 has been allotted 7 credits each. Math, science, and social science, these 3 subjects also have 7 credits. Health and physical education, 3 credits. Art education, 2 credits. And then optional 6th and 7th subject may be given 7 credits each as well. So this is the grade 9 level. And in grade 11, there's 1 language. And then the second subject will be a language 2 or an academic elective. The subject 3 will be an academic elective or a skill elective. Subject 4, again, academic elective or a skill elective. And subject 5, again, is an academic elective and skill elective. So these 5 subjects will carry 7 credits each, whereas health and physical education, 2 credits, work experience, 2 credit, general studies, 1 credit, and any optional subject that has been taken in the language, academic, or skill domains will carry 7 credits. This is a sample mark statement, which you need to be aware of, that how the mark statement should be published once the credit system comes into play. So the theory, the practical, the total marks, the grade, and the credits. So this is how it has to be shown. The same thing is applicable for grade 11th. The theory, the practical, the marks, the grade, and the credits. Now let's move to the secondary curriculum. Now we have to understand that what are the subjects that we need to, a student need to opt for at the secondary level. So as you can see, there are 2 languages, language 1 and language 2. Then there are 3 mandatory subjects, social science, maths, and science. The 6th subject can be an optional subject, which can be a skill subject or an elective subject. The 7th subject can be again an optional subject, which is the language 3. And then 3 mandatory subjects again, which is to be assessed at the school level. So health and physical education, work experience, and art education. Now we have to understand that work education experience has been subsumed under health and physical education. It's not a separate heading anymore right now. So work experience is included in health and physical education. And of course, art education is the other domain. It is a learner-centered curriculum, with school being a place where students would be acquiring various skills, building self-concept, a sense of enterprise, aesthetic sensibilities, and sportsmanship. So basically, we're talking about a holistic development of the child, where the child becomes aware of his own self. He becomes aware of who he really is. Understanding oneself is a very important point that has been raised in this curriculum. Next. So the subjects, in terms of languages, there are total 40 languages, that is Hindi, English, and 38 other languages that have been listed under the language heading of secondary level. So when a child chooses language, he needs to choose either Hindi or English as one of the languages. The first language can be either Hindi or English. And then the second language can be any other language within this 38 languages that have been listed. Social science. It includes geography, history, economics, and political science. Science will have 3 domains, biology, chemistry, and physics, which is altogether, taken under the subject science. Mathematics is of two levels, Maths Basic and Maths Standard. And the skill subjects. Now, in this curriculum, though we are talking about the secondary level, where the skill subjects come under the NSQF and NCRF framework, it also talks about subjects that can be opted for in the middle school. And these skill subjects have a 12-hour module each. So whatever subjects are to be taken in the grade 6 to grade 8 level, each skill subject has a module of 12 hours. Art education talks about visual and performing arts. It also talks about art integration in the subject. So art education and art integration, again, these are two different concepts. Whereas art education talks about the technical side of art, art integration talks about a subject that has to be taught with the help of art. The health and physical education talks about indigenous sports, yoga, NCC, self-defense, fitness, and lifestyle choices. We know now these days there are a lot of lifestyle diseases that is plaguing the country, and young minds need to be educated, well in time, that how to avoid these lifestyle choices by staying fit. And to stay fit, we have a lot of indigenous sports that we need to make these children aware of. And definitely yoga is one of those indigenous sciences, I would say, which is very, very important in the life of a growing child. And then work experience, which has been subsumed under the health and physical education. Now, when we talk about implementation of the curriculum recommends formation of a school curriculum committee. Now, what is a school curriculum committee? A school curriculum committee it will be formed with teachers from each area, and they define activities for pedagogical practices, evolve a plan of assessment and mechanism of feedback and reflection, and ensure that it is implemented. So one teacher from each of these subjects, including health and physical education, including art education. So all these teachers have to be brought together, and they will form a committee, and that will plan the pedagogical practices and evolve plans of assessment also. And also they will find out a way of getting a feedback and making arrangements that the learner becomes a reflective learner, thinks about what is being taught, and be aware of his own learning style. It also talks about the curriculum committee will take care of the textbooks and ensure that age-appropriate textbooks are prescribed at the school level. And it talks about the affiliation bylaws, point number 2.4.7, where you can see I have taken this picture from the affiliation bylaws directly. And the point number 8 talks about that the school may prescribe NCERT textbooks in classes and subjects in which these have been published by the NCERT. Extreme care should be taken in the selection of books of private publishers so that there is no objectionable content that hurts the feeling of any class, community, gender, or any religious group in society. Now, as you see, the point number A specifies very clearly that NCERT books are preferably to be prescribed. However, the schools may opt for private publications as well. But while choosing private publications, they need to be very, very careful about the content of these books. And the point number B talks about what needs to be done in case you are choosing a private publication. So it talks about the school shall put a list of prescribed books on its website with the written declaration duly signed by the manager and principal to the effect that they have gone through the contents of the book prescribed by the school and own the responsibility. If a school is found prescribing a book having any objectionable content, the responsibility for such content shall lie with the school, and action will be initiated against the school by the board. Now you can understand how serious this is. So while selecting a textbook, it is to be taken into account that the subject or the curriculum committee ensures that they go through the entire book very thoroughly, check each and every point that it does not really hurt any religious sentiment or any gender sentiment or a community sentiment. And this has to be uploaded on the website, and the principal and the manager is not a paid employee of the school. In affiliation language, the manager is someone who is a part of the school management committee, who is a part of the governing body of the school, management body of the school. And a manager is an employer rather than an employee. So age-appropriate textbooks are to be prescribed, and it has to be NEP compliant. So the school can design different formats where they analyze the textbooks and select the best one for their schools. And if you're selecting NCERT, then you do not take these measures, because NCERT books have been already checked by the government level. Now, when we talk about pedagogical leadership, this curriculum also talks about pedagogical leadership. Now, a principal, what is expected from a principal, this curriculum also talks about that. So it talks about how the principal becomes a pedagogical leader, and he's supposed to lead, guide, and support teaching and learning. Every activity of the school should be mapped to educational competencies. Now we are talking about competency-based education. At every level, the child is expected to reach or achieve certain competencies, and competencies are nothing but skills that the child needs to develop. It's not like something that the child memorizes and rote learning. So the skills that the child is expected to develop in himself or herself. So every activity in the school should be focused towards this development of competencies. Then it talks about the pedagogical leader also to prepare the annual pedagogical plan. So when we talk about the annual pedagogical plan, I'll go a little bit deep into that a little bit, but let's look at the other points first. Promote innovative pedagogy and integrated pedagogy. So innovative and integrated pedagogy, these are the terms which is coming forward since the time the NEP was published. So we are talking about different ways of teaching, which will make the child learn, not in terms of memorize the subject, but they are supposed to get or imbibe the competencies that we intend to, give to them. Ensure joyful learning, develop school-specific resources for teaching and learning, ensure capacity building for teachers, be up to date with new ideas and tools. So the pedagogical leader needs to be a very up-to-date person with new ideas, new tools and techniques that has come out. For example, if artificial intelligence is growing, a pedagogical leader needs to know what is a chat GPT and what are the other AI tools that can be used at the school level. And then, of course, the pedagogical leader should be someone who learned from the best practices of other schools. Now, when we talk about best practices of other schools, it has also been shared in the SQAF, the School Quality Assessment and Assurance Framework, where a school is expected to fill up the self-assessment format of SQAF every year before 31st of December. And all these points that are there in SQAF are best practices that has been lifted from various schools across the globe. And these practices have been shared as a self-assessment format in the SQAF. So once you're filling the self-assessment format, you also become updated with what are the best practices and try to adopt those best practices at your school level. Now, there's another interesting thing that this curriculum talks about. Many of you have attended as principals the Pedagogical Leadership Program. N. Maithili ma'am was the author of this book, Pedagogical Leadership. And an extensive training was carried out across the country where some of us master trainers, we trained other principals to become pedagogical leaders. And there was a format that was prescribed by the APP committee, the Annual Pedagogical Plan Committee. And this handbook contained that format. But however, this curriculum talks about no structure or format of APP, as the board respects educational autonomy of every school and expects each school to prepare its own unique plan. So it's a very clearly written line now that you need not follow the format that was given in the annual pedagogical plan. If you want to design your own format, you can do that, and it can be particular to your own school. And this plan should be implementable with realistic timelines that should include administrative inputs and detailed pedagogical aspects. So this is something that is to have to be kept in mind, that whatever goals you set, these have to be SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So if you are having a goal which is not a SMART goal, it's not a goal at all. So SMART goals have to be set, realistic timelines have to be set, and we have to take into account the administrative inputs that are required and talk in detail about the pedagogical aspects, the way the teaching learning process is supposed to happen at the school level. It also talks about, under the pedagogical leadership, that the pedagogical leader and all the school teachers need to ensure that no labeling of children is happening as slow learners or bright students. Now, this type of communication is very common in the staff rooms. Now, this is to be avoided. If you're talking about a child in the staff room, even when the child is not there, avoid labeling the child. Because once you start labeling the child in your brain, in your mind, in the subconscious brain, it goes in, and you never know when this will come out, even in presence of children. So it's always better that you do not label any child as a slow learner or a bright student. Because when you really do that, it sort of shakes up the child. Once the child knows that you do not expect the child to deliver, you do not expect much from the child, because in your mind the child is a slow learner. The child really goes deep into a thinking process where he really doubts his own abilities, and we really do not want that. At the same time, a child should not be made overconfident by labeling as a bright student. Now we're talking about competency-based learning. So purposefully, I've given this particular picture over here, because when you go to the cbse.gov.in and then you click on the academic website, you have CBE, and when you click on CBE, you come across this page where it talks about the home, the learning framework, teacher resource, assessment, and key stage assessment. Now, I would advise every educator to go to this particular site, competency-based education, and check out the website in detail, because this is going to really help you in the teaching learning process and in understanding the curriculum better. So competency-based learning, again, is a different topic of training altogether, which I normally conduct for 2 days. It cannot be summed up in just 1 or 2 hours. So I strongly recommend that you visit the website and keep checking out the different tabs that are there. So in competency-based learning, student demonstration of desired learning outcome as central to the learning process. And learning outcomes are mapped with assessment. This has to be kept in mind. Now, when we talk about what is competency, and in a very easy term, the way I explain is, for example, we were checking so far that we want to make a child learn how to ride a bicycle. So far, what we were doing is asking the child write an essay on how to ride a bicycle. The child is writing an essay on how to ride a bicycle, and the essay gets 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, because the child has really written the essay very well. He has covered all the points that are required to learn how to ride a bicycle. But when you give a bicycle to the child actually does not know how to ride it. This is the scenario that we are facing right now in the in India. And we have to understand that now, if we really want to make the child learn how to ride a bicycle, we need to stop asking questions like write an essay on riding bicycle, rather give a bicycle to the child and tell him to ride it in presence of the people. So this is something that is competency-based learning, where mastery of the skill is to be taken into account, and the learning outcomes are mapped with the assessment. So if my learning outcome is how to ride a bicycle, it should not be shifted to how to ride a bicycle to how to write an essay. I hope it is clear right now. Next. Now you see suggestive mapping of learning outcomes. Again, as I said, when you go to the teacher resources, you will find 2 tabs over here: teacher training course on CBE, which will take you to the Diksha portal. And then you have a tab over here, teachers resources for achieving learning outcomes. Now, when you click on that, you get a list of learning outcomes for different levels. And these learning outcomes are to be kept in mind, and not only kept in mind, even SQA is recommending, that is the School Quality Assessment and Assurance Framework, that these learning outcomes to be pasted on the walls of the classroom so that it remains in front of the eyes of the students and the teacher, because that is the target. As long as the goalpost is not in front of the eyes, you cannot really score a goal. So it's very important that all the learning outcomes need to be in front of the eyes, pasted on the walls of the class or on the board of the class, so that you are constantly reminded of what the child needs to learn, and the child is also constantly checking out what he's expected to learn. So this particular domain is very important. Now this curriculum also talks about the lesson or unit planning. Now there are different ways of lesson planning, starting from Herbacean lesson plan to RCM lesson plan, but we're not going to go into those concepts of different lesson plans. we need to understand in a very simple way what are the components of a lesson plan that is expected from a CBSE teacher. So the lesson plan should talk about specific learning outcomes, and these learning outcomes should be in terms of action verbs, not something that is written in a vague language like the student will be able to understand, the student will be able to remember. So instead of understand, it's more, you can shift to the language of students will be able to explain, the students will be able to demonstrate. So these type of action verbs are to be used so that learning becomes more objective and then subjective. So something that is visible, something that is measurable, that is specific learning outcome. And then it's supposed to talk about the pedagogical strategies, what type of teaching methodology you're supposed to use. And you need to have all your B.Ed knowledge of different strategies of teaching, starting from lecture method to demonstration, all different methods, questioning, everything that you learned of. These are to be used in pedagogical strategies. Then it talks about group activities, experiments, hands-on learning. So hands-on learning is again something that this curriculum is strongly recommending. It talks about interdisciplinary linkages. Subjects should not be taught in isolation. Subjects should be taught as interdisciplinary components. So in the real life, subjects do not exist in isolation. Whenever we are doing a work in the real life, different subjects are all combined together, and the child needs to be given a flavor of that from the school level itself, so that he understands very clearly that all the subjects that he's studying are related to one another. And this lesson plan is supposed to also infuse life skills in the child, infuse values in the child. So whenever we are conducting an activity, whenever we are teaching the child, we are talking about experiential learning, we need to keep in mind the experience that we are giving to the child should also include life skills and a good value system. It talks about inclusive practices. Inclusive practices is very, very important as per CBSE in the last few years, to the extent that the school building is also expected to be inclusive. The school has been strongly recommended that at every floor of the school, there should be ramps or an elevator connecting the different floors. The entire school should be wheelchair accessible. The different teaching learning aids should be procured in a way that shows inclusive practices in the school for children who are not able to hear, children who are not able to see, handicapped children physically. So all these inclusive practices are to be kept in mind. The lesson plan should also talk about feedback and remedial teaching plan, a feedback mechanism which is missing in most of the schools. So once the lesson has been transacted, just check, is there a feedback mechanism to understand whether the learning outcome was delivered to the children or not? So these feedback forms might be designed by the school in terms of exit slips. It can be a Google form, and various other innovative ways can be made to design a feedback mechanism of the children where they help the teacher understand how much the children have learned. Next, assessment items for measuring learning outcomes. So when we talk about assessment, in my last webinar on assessment practices, I spoke in detail about how the assessment should be, and it should be valid and reliable. So validity and reliability should be very high, fairness should be high, and it should measure what it is expected to measure. So, and the last point, but not least, is resources, including ICT. So it's a world of technology these days. So the lesson plan needs to include technology as well. You cannot leave out technology and design a lesson plan that the way we were doing in the last decade. It's a new decade, it's a new century. And you need to understand that a lesson plan should have some component of ICT as well. Now, this curriculum also talks about the classroom and the school environment. It talks about the school to be made a no anger zone, no junk food to be permitted in the school, activities from daily life, observation within the classroom, school, and surrounding. So the activities that are to be done at the school level are to be taken from activities that we see around us and to be replicated at the school level or inside the classroom or inside the school, or going to a place around the school. So these activities are to be done at the school level. Encourage presentations and reflections after activity. So after every activity, there should be a reflective practice. There is a large cycle where the learning outcome and then assessment, this activity, and then reflection. So reflection is a very, very important thing where the child is made to think what has been done as an activity, what are the learnings that he need to take from that, and what are the things he can think in a different way and go ahead. Critical thinking and communication is also a part of this particular curriculum. It talks about higher order thinking skills. It talks about 21st century skills, and it talks about peer learning. So as you see, this is a poster that I picked up from the net. KV number 1, Kolaba, Mumbai. Smile and stay calm to make this an anger-free zone. Avoid anger. It creates fear, disrespect, humiliation, and hurt. So posters like these can be put across different places of the school to ensure that the children understand what an anger-free zone is. And it's not applicable only to the children, but also to the teachers. This curriculum also talks about 21st century skills. Now, in 21st century skills, there are 3 different domains that I would like to address. The learning skills, which include critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration. These are the 4 C's. Literacy skills include information literacy, media literacy, and technology literacy. And life skills include flexibility, leadership, initiative, productivity, and self-awareness. Now, see this point, self-awareness is very, very important. Unless the child is aware who he really is, he cannot, perform to his optimum level. Next. Now we will talk about the scheme of studies in secondary level. Now, as you see over here, if you look at the right panel, right, column, I would say, the group, there are different groups of subjects. So there is a group A1, group A2, group L, and group S. So different subjects have been listed under these groups. So as you can understand, the group L is basically the language group. So subject number 1 and 2. So as I said earlier, the language 1 has to be either Hindi or English. So the language 1 can be Hindi or English depending on the medium of the school. So when we talk about the medium of the school, if it's an English medium school, it will take English. If it's a Hindi medium school, it will take Hindi. And that is the same thing that we write in the board exam answer scripts. When it talks about the medium of instruction or medium of paper, that time we need to understand that are we an English medium school or a Hindi medium school, and according to that, write the subject option over there or language over there. Now, language 2 can be anyone from the group of languages. So how many other languages are there? 38 other languages are there, and the child is free to choose any language from this list. Now, many state governments have recently come up with a circular or a GR which talks about making a particular language, in particularly the state language, compulsory at the secondary level. For example, in Maharashtra, Marathi has been made mandatory for grade 9th and 10th. Now, many schools are mixing this up. They're not understanding that something that has to do with a state government circular is not necessarily including CBSE practices as well. Now, when I met Joseph Emmanuel, sir, I remember, maybe 1.5 years back, I asked him that if CBSE talks about making any language compulsory, even if it is talked about at the state level, he clearly said that CBSE will make no language mandatory for any state or any set of schools. So this freedom of choosing the second language remains with the school. In fact, it remains with the student, right? So this is something that to be understood. And if the child is taking another language, let's say the state language, it can be a language 3 if needed. So those children who are taking the state language as language 2 need not have a third language at the moment. But those who are taking any other language apart from the state language, they can take that language at the board level without worrying about appearing for the state language at CBSE, but the state level language can be, the assessment can be conducted at the school level, and a marks card, or in fact, it's not a marks, it's supposed to be a grade that has to be given on the school letterhead or school report card. As simple as that. So still in this particular curriculum, we are sticking to 2 languages, not 3. Just keep that in mind. Mathematics has to be again taken in 2 levels, either of the 2 levels, basic or standard maths. Now, it has to be understood that this basic and standard math is not to be differentiated in the class 9th level or while teaching learning process happens in the class 10th level. Is to be selected only when the child fills up the form to appear in the board exam, not before that. So the papers will be different, but the teaching learning method and the subject, though the subject codes are different, will be following the same syllabi and the same book. And the only option of choosing the basic maths or standard maths will depend on the student when he enrolls for the board exam in form of the LOC. Now there is a list of mandatory subjects, which is maths, science, and social, which comes under this group A1. So these 3 subjects are mandatory subjects. Group A1, maths, science, and social science. And then the subject 6 can either be a skill subject or any other subject from group A2. Now here we have to keep in mind that when we are taking a skill subject, it has an advantage, because in the scheme of studies of skill subject in the CBSE website, it is written that in case the child fails in any of these 3 subjects of maths, science, or social science, the skill subject will replace that subject the child failed in, and the child will be declared as pass. So the skill subject has the power of replacing any of these 3 subjects, math, science, and social, in case the child fails to clear the subject. Now, a language 3, which can be a state government language that the state government is, driving, or any other language the child wants, can be taken as a language 3 as a subject number 7, and this is an optional subject. And this language can replace any of the first 2 languages, 1 and 2, but it will not replace the language number 1 and 2 if neither of those are Hindi or English. So one language has to be Hindi or English for sure, and then whatever the second language, that can be replaced by the language number 3 or the 7th subject. So if the child has already cleared either Hindi or English and then failed in the other language, it can be replaced with the language 3. Now there are 2 subjects which are for internal assessment. Subject number 8 and 9, art education and health and physical education, and work experience. This has to be graded at the school level. Combination of subject for the senior secondary. So when we talk about the senior secondary level, it's one language, the first language, which is supposed to be either Hindi or English. Now, the second subject can be a language or it can be any other subject as well. So in the class 11th, 2 languages are not mandatory. It's only one language which is mandatory, and that can be either Hindi or English, depending on the medium of the school. And then language 2 or subject 2, any one language or any one academic elective. Subject 3, 4, and 5, any 3 compulsory elective from pool of academic and skill subject. So 3, 4, and 5, these subjects can be chosen from the list of either academic electives or skill subjects. So in class 11th and 12th, there are 3 different domains or 3 different headings under which the subjects are enlisted. One is the language, that is L, then the academic elective, and the third is the skill. Whereas in the previous level, the secondary level, you saw that it was a language, it was A1, A2, and skill. So 4 different domains were there. So health and physical education, work experience, and general studies are again compulsory subjects and to be assessed internally only. Scheme of studies for senior secondary. Subject number 1 can be Hindi or English core, or Hindi and this English elective or English core. Subject 2 can be any subject from the group L or any elective. Number 3, 4, and 5 can be from academic electives or skill subjects. Subject 6 can be again any elective or a language from any subject group. And 7 to 9, health and physical education, work experience, and general studies are to be assessed at the school level only. So you see over here 1 language and 4 subjects. Total 5 subjects are to be taken in the senior secondary level, and the remaining 4 subjects can be a choice of academic electives, skill, and language. Now, important points to remember for senior secondary level. A language cannot be offered both at core and elective levels. So if someone has chosen Hindi core, which is subject code 302 cannot choose Hindi elective as well. So core and elective levels are a mismatch. So once you have selected any of those, you cannot select the other one. So you can choose either core or elective. Similarly, English elective is 001 and English core is 301. You have to choose one of these. And again, there are a few subject combinations where you need to choose one from the choice that are given over here. So between business studies and business administration, you can choose any one of those. Informatic practices, computer science, and information technology, any one subject from these three. You cannot have two or all these three together. So only one you need to choose from these three subjects. And again, mathematics and applied mathematics. So that is 041 and 241, any one in the senior secondary level. And similarly, in the secondary level, either basic maths or standard maths. Now, another very important thing that you need to understand in the senior secondary is when you're filling up the registration form or the Excel sheet of the registration, the first 5 subjects in chronological order during registration, or that will be appearing in the mark sheet as well, are considered as main subjects. So even if you take 6 or 7 subjects in the senior secondary level, the first 5 that you fill up while you're filling up the form, while registering the child, so it will have subject number 1, subject 2, subject 3. In that drop down, the choices that you make are the main subjects. So this is where the schools commit mistake. They do not follow a chronological order while registering the child, and that is an absolute disaster, because it is very clearly told that the first 5 subjects while registering are to be considered as main subjects. And if a candidate takes 6 or 7 subject, percentage, pardon the spelling, it is mistyped, percentage to be calculated as per institution in which the candidate is seeking admission in. So when you have subject number 6 and 7, many schools try to design work out the percentage based on their own understanding. But it is to be understood that wherever the child is applying for admission, the percentage calculation for the 6th and 7th subject, whether they will be taken into account, whether they will be calculated at all, or they will be totally left out, will depend entirely on the organization or institute where the child is seeking admission in. So here you cannot tell that CBSE has a policy and try to push it to the admitting organization. They will not be accepting whatever you have to say, because they will have their own rules and they will calculate the percentage accordingly. And most of the institutions I've seen, if there are 6 or 7 subjects, they take a perfect aggregate of all the 7 subjects together. They do not necessarily follow best 5 or something like that. Now, 6th subject will replace any of the 5 subjects if the student fails, and if he passes either in Hindi or English. So one of the subjects that the child needs to definitely pass is either Hindi or English, and then the remaining subjects can be replaced by the 6th subject if the child passes in the 6th subject and fails in any of the previous 5 main subjects. So 6th subject has an advantage for sure. So many schools who are not offering the 6th subject, that has to be kept in mind. Similarly, in subject combination, English language and literature 184 and English communicative cannot be taken together. Hindi course A and Hindi course B cannot be taken together. Computer applications, that is 165, information technology 402, artificial intelligence 417. You cannot take these subjects together. You have to choose any one of these. And an additional 7 subject can be a language, and that language will be replacing any of the 2 languages that the child has appeared for, and if he fails to clear it. So 7 subjects can be given to a child even in the secondary level. Now, when we talk about basic and standard maths, there is a very important thing that we need to understand. Sometimes we insist that the child takes basic math because we fear that the child may fail if he takes a standard math, right? But then the child and the family at times objects that no, we do not want to take basic math. We want to go for standard maths. So here, this explanation has to be kept in mind. You can take this screenshot of this particular slide if you want, which is very, very important. See what happens if the child passes and fails in these subjects. So example, the child takes basic maths, the standard maths, and passes it. Congratulations. If the child takes standard maths and fail in standard maths, in the compartmental, the child can choose either standard maths or basic maths. So here, first he has chosen standard, passes it, great. Does not pass it, second time he is attempting the compartment. No, he is going for the compartmental exam. Not necessarily has to take standard maths. He can choose basic math and clear the exam with that as well. Similarly, when the child is choosing basic maths and the child has passed it, the child can now take standard maths in the compartmental level as well. Now, this is a very important point that we need to understand. So when a child is telling, no, I want standard maths only, I may keep, maths in my 11th and 12th, why the school is insisting that, I should not take standard maths. So here you can tell that, we fear that if you take standard maths, you may struggle to pass. Instead of that, go for basic math. And if you clear it, your board exam is cleared, then in the compartmental level, you take standard maths and clear it. And 11th and 12th, you can take maths again if you clear it. If you do not clear, then also you will have a pass mark sheet of the 10th standard, which really matters. But if you fail in the first attempt itself, you will go for compartmental. And in the compartmental, again, you have to choose either basic or standard. And if you fail, then you go for an entire year loss, right? Similarly, when the child goes for the compartmental exam, after taking basic maths, in the compartmental exam, the child, if he fails in basic maths, he cannot take standard maths then. If the child passes in basic math, in compartmental, he can take standard maths. But if he fails in basic math, in compartmental, he has to appear in the basic maths only. Next. So the sixth subject advantage, if the student fails in any of the compulsory subjects of science, maths, and social science and passes in the skill subject, that subject will be replaced by the skill subject. I already spoke about this, right? Is my screen visible or it's not visible?
Sir, it is visible.
Visible.
It is visible.
Okay. It shows screen sharing paused, so no problem. So if a student fails in any of the languages out of the first 5 subjects, that is language 2, it will be replaced by the 6th subject if the 6th subject is taken as a language or the 7th subject is a language. Now we are to talk about something again very important, that is exemptions for children with special need. Now, when we talk about subjects that are to be taken for children with special needs, you can see over here, it's talking about only one language instead of 2. So language can be either Hindi or English, and the core or English language and literature or communicative as per the subject combination policy. So it is to be taken in the group L level, group L. The group L is the languages. So group L, A1 or A2, and S, except automotive. So the child can choose any one language, or the child may be given the flexibility of choosing a subject from A1 or A2.
Sir, the screen is probably not showing if there is something that you're presenting. If you can
Right.
reshare.
That's what I was wondering. It's showing paused. Yeah.
Yes.
I'll do
If
it.
you could just reshare.
Yeah. Is it visible now again?
Just hold on. I think it is probably taking a little while to load. Yes, sir. Now it is. Now it is visible.
Okay. Let me just go to the slide where we were.
Yes, sir.
Basic and standard maths, and then this one. Yeah. So again, it's visible now?
Now it is visible, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So you can see over here now, exemptions for CWSN. The first one can be a language, and then the group can be group L. And any other language, any other subject can also be given to the child from group L, group A1, or group A2 and S, except automotive. So language 1 is compulsory. The second subject can be a language or any academic elective. The subject number 3 can be any subject from A1, A2, and S. So 3, 4, and 5 can be any subject from A1, A2, and S, which basically means that the child is free to leave out the 3 compulsory subjects that were in grade A1, that is science, social science, and maths. So these subjects can be replaced by 3 different subjects, which can be music, which can be skill subject as well. So what are the subjects that are considered in the A2, you can have a list of the subjects in that curriculum. You can go through the list, and very clearly it will be giving you the list of subjects that are there in A1 and A2 level. So one language and 4 subjects from any of these A1, A2, and skill subjects. Optional subjects, any one subject from A1, A2, and Group S, except automotive. Language 3 can be the 7th subject, just like we have spoken earlier. But again, if the child is not taking this language, it can be any other subject other than L1 and L2, or in the skill subject domain as well. And art education and health and physical education will remain same. So basically, when we are talking about CWSN, you have to understand one language can be taken by the child, and the remaining 4 subjects, or if you want to take up the 6th and the 7th subject also, the choice can be given from the groups A1, A2, and S. So it's a very big choice the child is getting. Need not take math, science, or social science as compulsory subjects. So exemptions for CWSN has been given under a circular, which is CBSE CORD 112233, published in 2019, 12th April 2019. Exemptions. I would strongly recommend every educator should download this particular circular and keep a printout of the circular in their files or on their mobile phones. They can keep a soft copy of that, because this is very, very important. You will be very clearly aware that what are the exemptions that are given to the CWSN, because children with benchmark disability often do not get the facilities because the schools or the educators are not aware of it. So there's a very high need of spreading this awareness, and I strongly recommend schools conduct a CBSE module of inclusive education, which is a 2-day module at the school level, CBSE COE training, and they will be thoroughly updated with these provisions. So exemptions of CWSN, have taken a snapshot or a screenshot of that particular circular. So exemptions from the 3rd language is talked over here. Flexibility of choosing subject has been talked over here. So you see in Group 1 and Group 2 subjects: math, science, social science, other language, music, painting, home science, elements of business, element of bookkeeping, accountancy, computer applications. Subjects like that can be there in Group 1, and Group 2 like skill subjects except automotive. And it's to be kept in mind that information technology from Group 2 cannot be offered with computer applications, is opted in Group 1. That is a mismatch of the subject combination has to be kept in mind, and then the child can choose any subject. So we also have this alternate questions or separate question papers. So alternative type questions are provided in lieu of questions having visual inputs for visually impaired candidates in subject social science. So in social science, an alternative question paper has been spoken about. With the effect of 2020, in lieu of large front question papers, candidates will be allowed to use magnifying glasses or portable video magnifiers as well. So certain provisions have been given for the exam level as well. During the exam, the child can use a magnifier, a question paper with large font. This time they have also sent Braille question papers for the children. So these are going to stay and help the children with benchmark disability. Then flexibility of choosing subjects, I already spoken about, in the grade 12. So this is a screenshot of that particular circular again, where what are the subjects the child can choose in grade 12 has been clearly spoken about over here. So you can see over here, it's covered under the Right to Person with Disability Act 2016. Separate question paper is also being spoken about in the grade 11th and 12th level, and grade 12 in the board exam. Now, what are types of exemptions that are given to CWSN in the board level? So these are 10 types of exemptions that are allowed, and different disability will have different types of exemptions. Sometimes one or multiple of these exemptions are given to the child. So the first one, for example, flexibility in choosing subject is first exemption, which we already saw in the scheme of studies. It need not follow the scheme of studies which is there for other students. For CWSN, the subject combination has a greater flexibility where they can leave out the mandatory subjects. Relaxation for attendance on request. So the 75% attendance mandate that is given from the board may be relaxed for CWSN children. Exemptions in studying the second language. So again, if there are 2 languages in the secondary, Exemptions can be given in studying the second language. So there can be only one language the child takes. Because these children, maybe dyslexic children who have problems with languages, they are given these benefits in particular. Then examinations through computers. So certain exams or certain subjects, because of certain disabilities, the children will be allowed to take the exam through computers. Number 5, reader, adult prompter, scribe, and compensatory times. These also can be given as a benefit. Now we see many times compensatory time is given for 3 hours paper, 1 hour is a compensatory time that is given to children with benchmark disability. And as the duration of the paper decreases, the duration of compensatory time is also reduced. Examination room on ground floor. Now, when schools are arranging board exams, if you are a center, you need to keep in mind that for benchmark disability, the board may ask you to conduct the exam in the ground floor for certain children. So do not, forget that. At times I've seen the schools arranging the exam hall in the first or second floor, and then they're running the normal classes in the ground floor. And then when a child comes with benchmark disability, it becomes a problem. So keep this in mind. Keep at least one room free in the ground floor where children with benchmark disability can be accommodated in case it is mentioned in their admit card or hall ticket. Number 7, in the subjects where practicals are involved, theory papers of same marks can be given. So where practical subjects are there, like let's say physics, chemistry, or something like that, and the child, because of benchmark disability, cannot perform the practicals, same mark, that is 30 marks, theory paper can be given to these children as well, where they don't need to do the practical, they will be attempting a theory paper. Number 8, permitting assistive devices during exam. So assistive device can be magnifiers or any other assistive device which is technological device, and these devices can be prescribed with the advice of doctors. Number 9, options for skill-based subjects. So as you saw in the scheme of studies, the child can choose 1 language and 4 skill-based subjects as well, instead of the mandatory subjects that are normally taken by other children. And then the number 10 is waiving off of the registration fees. This is also something that you need to keep in mind. While registering the child, the waiving of the registration fee can also be an option. Now, there is a very clear tabular representation of the same thing in the circular that I mentioned previously. Now, what are the date lines that you need to keep in mind? Now, on the right-hand side, you can see what dates are to be kept in mind. The school will inform to the PWD, that is the person with disability candidate, about exemptions and concession extended by CBSE during annual exam. School will make a list of PWD students after submitting the LOC. So in the beginning of the academic session only, the PWD students need to be made aware of the exemptions and facilities. Now, students and parents will make a request to the school for seeking exemptions, concession during annual exam, along with required certification or document. RCI certified hospitals or clinics. These RCI certified or government hospitals have the provision of giving a certificate to the children about the disability, and you need to send this, or the parents need to apply up to 7th of July of each academic year. Now, after the parent applies, the school will compile all such requests in tabular form, which requires certificates, documents. Only one request will be sent by each school to regional office for necessary approvals. So this is to be kept in mind as well. Many times we send multiple requests, one request for each student, which is not to be done. One compiled request for all children with PWD for that particular batch has to be sent 7 days from the date of activity. So 7 July till 7 July, the parents are applying. By 15 July, you need to forward that to the regional office. And the regional office will communicate deficiency of, if any, to the school. So within 21 days from the date of activity, that's by 5th August, the RO will tell you if there are certain deficiencies, if there are certain documents that need to be added. So this will be intimated to the school within 21 days. And then the school will communicate the fulfillment of deficiency to the regional office again after 10 days. So by 15th August, the school will fulfill the deficiency and send it to the regional office. And the regional office will communicate approval to the school by 25th of August, and school will communicate the approval by 30th August. So this is the dateline or timeline that has been mentioned in the circular. But at times, this is missed out because of the busy schedule of the regional offices. but they make sure that they send the approval well in advance so that the children do not suffer. Next. Now, annual school hours versus self-study. Now, when we talk about the NCF and NCRF, the NCRF talks about the annual hours, the NCF talks about the annual hours, but these two, documents have been planned and designed by different bodies. So when we try to merge these together, I found something very interesting. That is annual hours, annual school periods, self-study and practice of project hours, and then total learning hours. So you see, as per the NCF, it talks about the 3 languages, R1, R2, and R3 in class 9th and 10th. If you are taking a third language at all, 70 hours each. And then 20 hours of self-study will make it 90 hours. So you can see, as per NCF, in the secondary level, this is the allocation of number of hours for each subjects annually. So language 1 is R1, that is 70 hours. Language 2, 70 hours. Language 3, 70 hours. Maths, 135 hours. Science, 135 hours. Social, 125. Interdisciplinary area, 120. Art education, 110. Physical education, 90. Skill education is 110. So it comes up to 1035 hours. But we know that the total number of hours to get 40 credits will be 1200 hours. So where are those remaining 165 hours coming from? The 165 hours coming from self-study, practice, or project work. So these are the number of hours the child is expected to spend in either self-study or practice or any project. So this 1035 plus 165 taken together will go for the 1200 hours that is needed for getting the 30 credits as per the National Credit Framework. So I hope this is very, very clear. And these are the number of credits that are to be allocated, and 40 credits in total. So instructional time. Now I have to show you something that is very, very interesting, which I did in my school, and I thought that I'll share with you all so that you can do it in your schools as well. So the first one is R1. As you saw, this is the time that was allocated, and these are the number of annual periods that has been allocated. And this I have taken from the NCF. Now, when we take this total number of hours, 1045, total number of hours, convert into minutes, 62700, divide with 6 hours 10 minutes, that is 370 minutes, which is per day schedule. So when you divide the total number of hours allocated for all the subjects taken together with 370 minutes, you get 169.46. That is 170 active teaching days you require. So when you make the annual plan, you make sure that you ensure that you have at least 170 active teaching days, not working days, active teaching days, because that is what is required as per this calculation. Now, when we go for total number of periods, so all these annual periods for different subjects taken together is coming up to 1254. So divide the suggested periods by active teaching days and multiply with 6. Now, why we are doing it? So divide the suggested periods, for example, this 84 periods in language 1, divide with 170, that is the number of active teaching. So when you do that, you multiply with 6, that is 6 days a week, you get how many periods for that subject you are supposed to prescribe per week. So R1, for example, 84 annual periods divided by 170 active teaching days, multiply by 6, that which is number of days per week, is coming to 2.9, that is 3 periods per week. So in that way, when we calculate all these subjects, so 3 plus 3 plus all these things comes up to 45 periods in a week. So this is what is, an ideal framework taken from NCF. You can calculate the number of periods that you can allocate for each subject. Now you will see over here, you may not need the R3. You may not need the interdisciplinary area, which has not yet come up, right? Till the time IDA, which is, a mixture of environmental studies and linkages between different subjects, till that time, if it is not there, if you're practicing interdisciplinary area, wonderful. But if it's not there, which is still not recommended by the curriculum, you can use these number of periods for other subjects for the time being as well. So it depends on the school and the school leader, how they need to allocate the number of periods per week for a particular subject following NCF. Next, structure for assessment scheme. It's a very important thing that, and easy also, we know that all these exams are to be conducted for 80 marks and 20 marks internal assessment, and 80-20 rule is there for the last few years. And initially the pass criteria was 33% individually for theory and individually for internal assessment. But with this particular circular dated 27 Feb 2018, passing criteria was relaxed for one time, but it is now still continuing, where you need to ensure that taken together, that is a board exam and the internal assessment taken together, the child needs to score 33%. Next, structure of the assessment scheme. It's being spoken about right now, progressively allowing more space to learning outcome based assessment in place of textbooks. So rote learning is to be taking a back seat, and progressively allowing more space to learning outcome based assessment is to be done. Question papers to have more questions based on real life situations, requiring students to apply, analyze, evaluate, and synthesize or create information as per the stipulated outcomes. So we are talking about higher order thinking skills of Bloom's taxonomy. Then we are talking about core competencies to be assessed will be from prescribed syllabus. So though we are going for competency based assessment, but we are not going to go beyond the syllabus. It is to be restricted within the syllabus, but whatever concepts and competencies that has been pronounced by CBSE and NCERT, within that domain we will be going for competency based questions and assessment. Now this is a circular that is published very recently, 3rd of April this year, and you can see every year CBSE comes up with this circular that what is the change in question pattern in the board exam for that academic year. It announces in the very beginning of the academic year. Now, if you see in the class 10th level, 9th and 10th, the 3 different types of questions are there. That is competency focused questions, MCQs or case-based questions, source-based integrated questions, or any other type. 50% weightage was there. And in this also, in this new academic year, it remains 50%. Selected response type questions, which is MCQ, is 20%. Here, selective response time question again is 20%. So no change. Constructed response, that is long answer questions, short answer and long answer type question. This is again, earlier it was 30%, this year also 30%. So basically, the heart of the matter is, for this academic year, no change in question pattern of grade 9 and 10, where competency-based questions will be 50%, selected response or MCQs will be 20%, and short and long answer questions will be 30%. But in grade 11th and 12th, there is a slight change. What is the change? If you see over here, competency-focused questions, MCQs, case-based questions, or source-based questions are 40%. But now here, in the new academic year, it has been increased to 50%. So earlier it was 40% in the previous year. Competency-based questions is gradually increased 10% each academic year. So it was 40% in the previous year. This year it has been made 50% competency-based. So you can very well understand the questioning pattern of the board exam is changing. No more rote learning, no more questioning from the textbook directly. And we are also contemplating, if you remember in one of the webinars, we spoke about that open textbook assessment. That also is a possibility in the near future, where the child can be given the textbook in the assessment or board exam as well, because questions will not come directly from the book. So 50% questions will this year come for competency-based questioning. And then selected response type question, that is MCQ, remains 20%. Last year it was 20%, this is also 20%. What has this long answer questions to do now? In the previous year, it was 40% for short answer and long answer, but this year it has been reduced to 30%. So you can see very well that this short answer constructed response has been reduced by 10%, and competency focused questions, MCQ based questions, source based questions have been increased by 10%. So CBSE is giving an indication that slowly start teaching in a way where you are not asking short answers or long answer questions directly from the textbook. Now, when we talk about the internal assessment, I'm pretty sure you know this. I'll not cover this in very, with a lot of time because we have shortage of time as well. So multiple assessment, 5 marks. subject enrichment activity 5 marks, periodic test 5 marks, and portfolio 5 marks. So 5 marks have been allocated for each of these different types of assessment. And as you can say, periodic test is an assessment of learning, which is basically a type of summative assessment. Assessment for learning, that is formative assessment, is multiple assessment and subject enrichment activities. And assessment as learning is a portfolio where we make the learner metacognitive learners or thinkers. Let's go to the next point, periodic test. So periodic test will be, 3 pen paper tests will be conducted, pre-midterm, midterm, and post-midterm. And the best 2 performance out of the 3 will be taken and reduced to 5%. So you may conduct the test of 30%, or 30 marks, or 50 marks, or 80 marks. It depends on the school, how much will be the total score for that particular periodic test. But you're going to bring it down to the level of 5%. Weightage will be 5%. Next. Sorry. So when we talk about multiple assessment, these are options, concept map, seminar, presentation, worksheets, carousel, brainstorming, exit cards, listening tasks. So a whole lot of activities. You just design it. You be creative. This is where creative thinking comes into play, and design a different way of assessing a child. Declamation, map, debates, whatever. Now, you need to understand what are the documents that you need to maintain. Assessment activity, a record of assessment, and rubrics are definitely, these are important documents that you need to have. So you need to have rubrics for the assessment, and you need to keep a record of the assessment. Other evidences can be photographs, project files or PPTs, models, charts, map work, or videos. And in suggestive documentation, you can have introduction, objective, preparation, students' participation, procedure. You can have a detailed description of these things as well, which is not mandatory, but mandatory is definitely recording of the assessment and the rubrics, and keeping photographs and all these files, models, or charts where the child is presenting something. Next. What is a portfolio? Portfolio is a systematic collection of a learner's work, a way to display the skills and accomplishments, updated as and when individual skills and accomplishment grow, regarded as a collaborative approach to assessment, and involves student assessment. So basically, it's a collection of students' work in a nutshell. If you do not remember all these points, no problem. Remember, it's a collection of the students' work, where the student will check out what he has done in the entire year. So documents that must go into a portfolio, and documents that may go into a portfolio. So must documents are notebooks for each subject, since notebook assessment is now a part of the portfolio. So portfolio must include notebooks, or pages from the notebooks. Any other work the teacher and the student agreed upon as artifact for the a portfolio must be in the portfolio. So if the teacher and the child student agrees that this certificate will go into my portfolio, this appreciation letter that will go into my portfolio, the teacher gave me a silver star or a golden star, that will go into my portfolio. All these things can go into a portfolio. Documents that students would like to have in his or her portfolio, that can be included in the may option. If they want to add something that they would like, they have an interest in something, for example, a hobby, something they have participated in an external competition, these things can also be a part of the portfolio. I also recommend making of digital portfolios, because physical portfolios can be very voluminous. At times the school cannot have or may not have the storage provisions. Digital portfolio will be very, very helpful in that way. If you are aware how to make a digital portfolio, wonderful. If you're not aware, I have a YouTube channel. You can Google me up, Dr. Swarup Datta Education, and you can search digital portfolio in Google, digital portfolio by Dr. Swarup Datta. You'll get that video. You can find out how to make a digital portfolio and use it. It will save a lot of space, and it will be a non-destructible portfolio. So elements to judge the portfolio, which is given in the curriculum: organization, neatness, creativity, visual appeal, completion of guided work focused on specific curriculum objectives, evidence of students' growth, inclusion of relevant work, that is completeness of the work. Then the next, subject enrichment activities. Subject enrichment activity can be aims and enrichment of understanding and skill development, to be recorded internally by respective subject teachers. Languages, activities aiming, equipping the students to develop effective speaking and listening skills. So ASL activities can be done in maths, laboratory activities, science, practical work, lab work, social science, project work. These can be subject enrichment activities. Elements to judge the portfolio. I've already spoken about that. No. Next, health and physical education consists of 4 strands. You can download the health and physical education manual, where strand 1 talks about athletics and swimming, team games, individual games, adventure sport. Strand 2 talks about health and fitness. Strand 3 is Seva, and strand 4 is the health or activity card. Now, when we talk about distribution of marks for internal assessment in health and physical education, this will not reflect in the board exam, but you have to have an internal assessment policy, which is given like this. You can refer to the physical health manual, and you can see that how many number of suggested periods are given. Now, again, you see over here, 200 periods have been given as per the manual. But if you noticed a moment ago when we were covering the allocation of periods, these many number of periods are not given for physical education. So now we need to make this compatible. The number of periods that we are giving for physical education has to be as per NCF guidelines, because this was published before NCF, this manual. And you can see that levels up to 25 marks out of 50 marks will be given for learning. Then 26 to 40 are the children who are proficient, and 41 to 50 who are advanced. So in any of the games, when we talk about advanced level, the child plays at the national level or state level, that will be considered as advanced learning. Even at the school level, there is no clear-cut mention of the thing that it has to be a state level or a country level player. But even at the school level, you can give 41 to 50 if you think the child is playing the sport at an advanced level. Health and physical fitness, again, it contains 25 marks in total. 13 to 20 marks will be given for proficient children. 21 to 25 marks will be given for advanced children. And below 12, it will be given to children who are still learning level. Seva will contain 25 marks. So again, up to 25 marks is learning, 13 to 20 marks is proficient, and 21 to 25 is advanced. Health and physical activity card, 10 periods, total 200 periods. But again, as I said, this need to be realigned as per NCF. And you can make a proportional decrease of periods. Now here, there are some questions. The target group of HP is all students of grade 9 and 12 is the target group. Time required, 1 period every day is recommended. Maximum marks is 100. Theory or practical? All practical, no theory over here. Will the marks of HP be added in the final board exam? It will not be added in the board exam. However, participation in HP and assessment will be mandatory to be eligible to appear in board exams in grade 10 and 12. All evidences and portfolios regarding Seva needs to be in the school, as they can be monitored by CBSE anytime. Do not forget this. Keeping of the documentation of the Seva project and portfolio is mandatory. Then, will the academic elective subject physical education code 048 for grade 11 and 12 continue? The academic elective subject will continue as choice or optional subject for grade 11 and 12. Is only one physical education sports teacher eligible for implementing evaluation and record keeping of HPE? No, the record can be kept by every teacher, including class teacher teaching CBSE, because you do not forget that for one physical education teacher, 500 students are mapped with. So it becomes a voluminous task for the physical education teacher to complete all the documentation process. So he has to be assisted by class teachers and subject teachers. So what is the format for record keeping? The format of health and activity card in strand 4 has already been given in the manual. You can refer to that. Will any external examiner observer be appointed for HP? No. Will the CBSE annual sports and games competitions continue to be organized? Yes, it will be. HP internal assessment for distribution of periods, again, this is how it is supposed to be. And the grades will be on a 5-point grade, A, B, C, D, and E, and no rubrics is given for these 4 strands. We already saw that learning, proficient, all these levels are there, and you can grade the child accordingly. Next. HP and art education in a nutshell. So when we talk about health and physical education, it talks about overall fitness. The process is participation, team spirit, commitment, and honest effort. And in art education, it will be expression of creativity and aesthetic appeal. Here also participation, creative process, material used, appreciation, reflection, effort, craftsmanship, and completion. And detail of 5-point grading, like A is exemplary, B is proficient, C is developing, D is emerging, E is beginner. It has been mentioned clearly in the curriculum that do not have different rubrics for this, only go for these grades in the way it has been shown on the slide. Now, when we talk about the positional grading system, you need to be aware of in the board exam, A1 grade is given to the top 1/8 of the past candidates. So often you will see a candidate has got 96 and is in grade A1, and the child has got 97 and is in grade A2. Now you'll be wondering why in 96 the child is in grade 1 and in 97 the child is in grade 2, though in the subject 2, 97, 1 mark is more. The idea is very simple. In that particular subject, 97 comes in next 1/8 of the past candidates. So the top 1/8 must have scored between 100, 99, and 98. So that composed of the top 1/8. So A1 will be given to those children. And the remaining children, though it's 97%, which is better than other subjects, but in this particular subject, it may get a A2. So like that, all these octile system is there, top 1/8 and next 1/8 and next 1/8, and it goes on till the time we reach E, which is the failed candidates, right? Next. Points to be noted, minor variations in proportion of candidates to adjust ties will be made. So in case there's a tie, adjustment can be made. And a few more points are there. I'm not elaborating all the points, but remember, for this positional grading, number of children should be at least 500. If the number of children is less than 500, similar subjects where more than 500 children were there, those subjects grading system or positional grading system will be used over here as well. Grading system for class 9. Now in class 9, you do not calculate the octile grading system of 1/8 of the class and next 1/8 of the class. You can straight away go with marks. 900 to 91 to 100 is A1, 81 to 90 is A2, and so on. So this is the positional grading system is not used in grade 9. It is used only for board exam, where they take more than 500 children into account. In a classroom where there is the number of children is 40 or 100 or 200, it will not be taken into account. Marks versus grade will be given over here. Similarly, for class 11, positional grading is not used. This absolute grading is used based on the marks. And less than 32 is essential repeat. The child needs to repeat grade 11th again if he fails to clear it. Next. Sorry. Now here, some key points to remember in this particular curriculum. Set high expectations to motivate and challenge students. Now this has been told very clearly that, in case the children are there, you need to make them aware that you expect high from them, because this high expectation itself will ensure that their performance improves. Value education and life skills are to be graded as well. Now you can see over here, there's a grading that has been also mentioned for value education and life skill, a 5-point grading, A to E. And here, this grading system used in your report cards can help the children understand that, what are good values and practice those as well. So we do not really have any place where we punish the child or we scold the child. It is not advisable. But where we can give a message to the child is through the grade system, that if you are in grade D or grade E, you need to really work on your value system. Introduction of NCF for foundational stage is also mentioned in the curriculum. Group age 3 to 8, this year it has been strongly recommended that all school starts the foundation stage because it is mentioned in the NCF. Curricular goals and learning outcomes are to be kept in mind. The NCF has given curricular goals. All these curricular goals can be printed out on a flex or a board and kept in a prominent place of the school so that everyone can look at those curricular goals. Parents, students, teachers, everyone. Organization of contents. Like for example, the textbook from class 1, it is recommended. Before that, you don't recommend textbooks. Before that, you recommend practice books. Nursery, LKG, UKG, no need of any textbook is what NCF talks about. You can just give practice books to them. Then AV material. And how to select the textbook, I already mentioned earlier, right? So audiovisual material, flashcards, shapes, etc. are to be used. Use available low-cost material to make teaching learning material. Jadui Pitara is given in Diksha. Now, if you see over here, you type Jadui Pitara Diksha, it will take you to this website. I've used the page over here. The exact page that you get when you log in to Diksha portal, Jadui Pitara, and you have these different, different tabs like books, cards, charts, this puppets and posters, guidelines. All these things are there. You click on these and you get all these items, and you can download and print these items and use in your classrooms. So Jadui Pitara has been made available by CBSE, available in the NCERT Diksha website, and you can use those freely. This curriculum also talks about Prashast. Prashast is a handbook where you have a disability screening system. Identifying disability early is very important for the school. So a whole handbook is there. This is the QR code. If you want to take a snapshot, a screenshot of this, take a screenshot, scan this QR code with the QR code scanner, and you get this Prashast handbook in your mobile phone. Download and keep a copy of it. It will help you in the classroom to identify developmental delays. Then at the last, it talks about the positive culture of a school. It talks about leadership, culture building, climate. The school is going to evolve when we set the culture right. And to set the culture right, teachers are expected to do it. Teachers are role models. So if you have a cup full of coffee and you run with that cup full from one corner of the room to other, only the coffee will spill out because the cup contains coffee. A teacher is like that cup, whatever is inside the teacher, the same thing will be spill off to the children. Teacher cannot give anything to the children except whatever is there inside the teacher. So if you have good values, those will spill over to the children. If you have good subject knowledge, that will spill over to the children. So it's very important to build the culture of the school. The teachers need to practice what they preach, right? So at the end, we come to the end of the session. I'll now definitely take your questions. And those who want to stay connected, I have a WhatsApp education community where I answer a lot of questions. I post my YouTube videos over there. You can scan this and join my community, or you can also follow my YouTube page where I keep posting different videos from time to time. Even when a circular comes up, I try to ensure that the circular is informed to all the educators through the YouTube channel. So with that, I can come to the end of my presentation. I have covered in detail the entire curriculum of secondary and senior secondary, the initial pages. And I hope that if you keep this video handy, and skip and see this video, it will really be very, very helpful for you in the long run. Ma'am, over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Datta, for enlightening us. Dear participants, if you have any queries, you may please virtually raise your hand and your name will be called out. Sir, meanwhile, I saw there were a few queries, especially regarding foreign languages, sir. So what is the status of foreign languages?
See, when this two-language policy is there, it is applicable only to Indian schools. It is not applicable to foreign schools. That's the first thing that needs to be kept in mind. And the second thing is, if in Indian school, they need to keep a foreign language, if they're planning to keep a foreign language, that can be kept as a 7th subject. So we already saw the provision of subject number 7, which can be a language, and there the foreign language can be included. And if it's a foreign country school, like schools in Gulf, here
Yes,
it has not been mandated that one of the languages has to be a foreign language. This Indian language, it can be a foreign language as well.
Perfect, sir. Thank you. Sir, one query is also there. If you could guide about interdisciplinary areas, how they should be conducted in school.
See, interdisciplinary area, if you go into the National Curriculum Framework, detailed description has been given on the page number 333. So in that, interdisciplinary area has been talked about. And in that, what you have to understand is, it's a combination of all the subjects. So certain activities are to be conducted in school where, you have the languages, you have the sciences, you have the social studies. For example, let's say a visit to a dairy farm. It can be an activity of interdisciplinary area. So when you go to a dairy farm and you observe the process of pasteurization, it's science. Now, when you come back and report about that, it's language. When we calculate the total amount of milk that is produced in a dairy farm, and how many packets of 500 ml or 1 liter will be, packed, that's mathematics. So this is something like, interdisciplinary area where you go to a place and find out that all the subjects are working together. It's not existing in isolation. So interdisciplinary areas can be activities like that. And in the days to come, more activities will be, updated to the educators from time to time, and they can refer to those, ideas from CBSE or NCRT and use those.
Great, sir. Thank you so much. We have an educator, Mr. Ravi. Could you please unmute yourself?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Ravi from Bangalore, sir. So
Yes,
I have a doubt that language policy, it will applicable from this academic year, sir, like grade 9, third language.
Right. A very important question. As I told earlier, CBSE curriculum, if you have seen the scheme of studies, in grade 9th and 10th is speaking about only 2 languages. In these 2 languages, one will be definitely English or Hindi, and the second language can be any of the languages from the remaining 38 languages that CBSE has to offer at the secondary level. Similarly, in grade 11th and 12th, it's going to be 1 language, and this language can be either Hindi or English, and the remaining 4 subjects can be from academic electives or from the skill subject module.
No, it will applicable from this academic
This year,
sir.
this year. See, two
This
language was always there. We have to understand that CBSE did not make any change in the curriculum as far as the language is concerned. What was expected from NCF, if you saw my slides that I showed a moment ago, I showed that in the NCF it is mentioned R1, R2, R3, 3 languages. But the 3 language formula is still not started. What is mentioned over here? Right now in the board level, 9th and 10th, only 2 languages. But in the days to come, we will see 3 languages will be there in the board level as well, which is most likely to start from 25-26. So this has to be kept in mind. But this year, board has not gone ahead with the 3 language formula. But what is the 3 language formula as of now? That every child should have 3 languages at least till grade 8. If the child fails to clear all these 3 languages in the grade 8th level, he has to appear in the grade 9th and try to clear it. If he fails to clear it in the grade 9th level, then again in the grade 10, the child can appear in the school level and clear the 3rd language. So what it means is that the child should be clearing the 3 languages at least in the grade 8th level. And in certain states, like I mentioned Maharashtra, it has been mentioned now, the child needs to appear for Marathi in the grade 10th level, not in the board exam. If the child has chosen Hindi in the board exam, not a problem. But he needs to take Marathi at the school level and study Marathi and appear for the assessment. And that has to be, assessment has to be graded, not marked. So a grade has to be kept and that has to be mentioned. The assessment record as the grade record as well. But if the child is taking the second language as Marathi, he need not take a 3rd language this year. But in the years to come, probably in the very next year, we can see 3 languages in the board level as well. I hope it is clear.
So now also there is an additional language as optional.
Yes, 7th subject.
7th subject.
So 7th subject, if the child wants to take, he can definitely take it. But at times, the schools and the child is a little reluctant because additional subject means additional study. And he has to focus on now, 6 or 7 subjects instead of 5. 6 subject is strongly recommended for those children, who are, chances of not clearing any of the 3 mandatory subjects are there. From the school point of view, to get a good result, a 6th subject is strongly to be recommended. But apart from that also, what I find is, the days that are coming are, days of artificial intelligence and computer science. So I strongly recommend my students in my school and the schools that I visit, that even if you are not fearing that you will fail in any of the mandatory subject, take the 6th subject, because it will help you to stay connected with something that you have to do for a long, long time. If you're taking medicine or engineering, you have to go for AI or computer science or information technology. Do not get detached from these subjects. So one skill subject will be really very helpful. And as a language, of course, 7th subject can be again chosen. And the option of the best 2 language to be considered while calculating percentage, the chance of also that is there. But again, if you are able to take the additional load of studying 6 or 7 subjects instead of 5.
Yes, sir. Sir, thank you so much. We have another query. The educator's name is not flashing. iPhone, I can see.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
my name is Varsha. The query is regarding the foreign language only. There is a bit of confusion going according to the NCF. They are making 2 native languages as a compulsion, and the third language would be any foreign language, where English is also considered as a foreign language now. So, like in the schools going on, English is first language. Okay. Then I'm from Maharashtra. So Marathi is one language and French another language. So they are considering second language as a French and third as a Marathi. Would this pattern be fine, or there will be
Absolutely.
changes, or
No,
there will be
as
changes
you
like
saw,
they will be taking Hindi?
No, as you saw in the scheme of studies, if you've taken the language one as either English or Hindi, so you've taken English, right? So the language one criteria is met. Now, language two criteria is any other language from the list of 38 languages. So if you take Marathi, that is fine. If you take, if your school is located in India, then preferably you should be taking an Indian language, which is not mentioned this year anywhere in the curriculum. But in the NEP and NCF, it is being talked about that to promote Indianism, in grade 12, one of the language has to be, 2 language formula will be there in grade 12, and one of the language should be an Indian language. Similarly, in the grade 10th level, 3 languages will be there and 2 languages can be Indian languages. Now, this is what has been told in the 3 language formula that was spoken about. But right now, this year, we are following only 2 languages. So you can choose English and Marathi. And if you want to take French, you can take as a 7th subject.
So I can take a language can be taken, French language can be taken as a second subject in the coming years as well.
Yeah, see, right now, coming years, we are not sure because coming year, the board might come out with a new policy. But what recommendation is done by the NCF is that in the coming years, 2 languages will be from Indian origin because we are trying to promote multilingualism in India. And in the board class 12th level, one of the language will be an Indian language. So if you're taking English, one more language has to be taken, which is an Indian language. So here, when we're talking about the foreign language, if you're a school located in India, the foreign language can easily be shifted to the optional 7th subject, which is very, very easy. If you have to teach French, teach as a 7th subject. And if you have students from abroad, for students from abroad, so here also the policy is very, very clear. If you go to places like Germany or Russia, they have a policy where you need to study that country's language. Now, when in India, we do not have a policy like that. So NEP is talking about framing a policy like that. If you want to study in India and you're from a foreign country, you have to learn an Indian language. And Indian language, at least at the functional level, it may not be at a very deep level. So when it comes to 3 languages, one of the languages can be a very basic functional level, but you need to study one Indian language for sure. And I do not find anything wrong in that because all countries did try to promote their languages. India is a country which is divided into states based on languages. So language is a very, very sensitive issue. And we have not been noticing it for quite some time. But right now, the National Education Policy is talking about that, and we need to try to follow it. So I hope it is clear now.
Sir, one single query more. In the schools, they have given the option as a second language between Hindi and French, or maybe Hindi or German, whatever foreign language they are offering. So in the past years, the students must have omitted in the 5th or 6th grade, they have omitted Hindi and chosen as a foreign language. Right. And if the NCF comes up with the 2 native languages, then it becomes very difficult in the upcoming years, like 7th and 8th, they have to choose for again Hindi. And they have to keep a foreign language as a 7th language.
True.
So in that case, what should be done for the students?
Multilingualism, again, I would recommend that NEP is talking strongly about teaching multiple languages to the child. Do not restrict the child to 1 language or 2 languages. Teach the languages that you see a probability of that, right? NCF is still not implemented. NCF is implemented in phase-wise manner. So now that you know that it is written on the wall, the days are coming. So why don't you start teaching it from now on? And you know that very well that people, they do interpreter's job. They learn Chinese in 6 months and 1 year. So if you learn a language like Chinese, which you do not know anything about in 6 months and 1 year, any other language can be learned as well. So the fear in our mind that how the child will learn that language is not a very valid fear, according to me, because we can learn languages and children are capable of learning languages very quickly. We just try to, bring our thought process in that we are not capable of learning languages because we have aged. Same thing is with the children. It's not like that. Children can really pick up very fast. I can tell you something, my own example. I was working in Telangana, which was Andhra Pradesh, when my child was in class 1. Before that, I was in West Bengal. So my child studied Bengali in nursery, LKG, UKG. In class 1, he had to study Telugu. By the time he reached class 4, I was in Maharashtra. He was studying Marathi. And he learned all these languages very effortlessly. So CBSE is talking about teaching more languages to the child. There's a NCERT portal where it talks about Bhasha Sangam, where all the Indian languages are given, the script of the language in Hindi script, English script. Go through that. We have to do enough for the languages. So this is a strong recommendation by NEP that work on the languages of the children. Do not go for bookish rote learning, but functional level language learning is very, very important. So right now we know that it is coming, so prepare for it. As simple as that.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much, sir. Dear educators, if you have any query, you may ask. Please raise your hand virtually. Salam, sir. I think we are good to go.
Yeah, we have done.
Yes,
We
sir.
can
Sir,
go.
should I proceed with vote of thanks?
Yes, wrap it up.
Yes, sir. I would like to extend our gratefulness and appreciation to Dr. Swarup Datta for enlightening us with boundless discourse. I'm sure we will apply all these tenets in our teaching methodology, and we will ensure that our young learners reap maximum benefit out of it. Dear participants, kindly note the link for certificate and feedback form has been already posted. You're requested to fill up the form with all the necessary details. I, Himani Bakshi, along with Extra Mile Education and Training, would like to thank Dr. Abdul Salam for his boundless support, guidance, and giving me this opportunity. And most importantly, thank you a million times to all the dear participants for their enthusiasm. I sincerely hope we earned the privilege of your time. Over to you, Salam, sir.
Thank you, Himani ma'am. As usual, wonderful job.
Thank you,
by both by Dr. Swarup Datta and Himani ma'am. In fact, Extra Mile is very happy to have this particular session because it is going to be a reference for all educators. Actually, I was looking forward to such a session. Wonderful job, Dr. Swarup Datta. You have researched very well, very well. Yeah, thank you so much. And definitely all the educators, the forum was full. They must have cleared their doubts through the session. It was a journey through all the requirements put forth by CBSE for grade 10 and 12, 9 to 12 we can say secondary and senior secondary. So you have covered the entire thing, including CWSN, privileges and all. Thank you so much for this wonderful job. I can see that dedication in you. Whenever you deliver a session, you deliver it to the fullest. Thank you so much, and as always, you have stolen the show. Thank you, Dr. Datta. Once again, we will meet with another topic. Himani ma'am, thank you so much. Viju sir,
Thank you so much,
all the educators, thank you. Thank you for your valuable time. We have spent almost 2 hours. Non-stop, presentation, Dr. Swarup Datta. Definitely a great job. Thank you so much, everybody. Keep connected. We will be posting this video on our YouTube channel. You can refer to it from time to time. This is going to be immortal. This video is going to be immortal, an immortal reference. Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you so much,
Have a
sir.
good night.
Good night, Salam, sir. Good night, Dr. Datta.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.